Hello and welcome to My Tales of Awakening. Just as the name implies, these are stories and experiences of my awakening journey. If you are here looking for advice or educational input or answers, I am so sorry to let you know that I don't have that. I am simply just sharing my new experiences as I work through them. With all of this, I'm really hoping that I find the souls that feel alone and that are just starting out. Because you're not alone. You're beautiful and it's a beautiful path. I cuss a little and I do smoke, and I have no advice to offer. So if that all bothers you, this is not a channel for you. I'm so sorry. I most sincerely hope that you find your tribe as I look for mine. And if you're sticking around, welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Make yourself a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you fancy. Buckle up and let's begin. All right, you guys, coming back from the 5 a.m. parking lot. I decided to do somewhat of a fun one on one of my favorite topics, I guess. I always love hearing somewhat of spirit encounter stories. I feel my spirits around me all the mother frickin' time. More so in the evenings. I don't know if it's because in the evenings I'm usually all by myself or it's, the witching hour, I guess. But I feel them more so than anything else. When I was little, back home, we lived in one house. There was 4 generations at one point in time. There wasn't a lot of time where it was 4 generations under the same roof. But, like, right after I was born, my great-grandparents passed. So, like, shortly after I was born. So, for, like, the first 9 years of my life, it was my grandparents' parents and my sister and I under one roof. And I would always hear stories about my parents or my grandparents, somebody hearing footsteps like clogs on the floor in the middle of the night. And it was my great-grandfather. Now, he used to wear wooden clogs, and when he'd walk in the hallway, you could hear it. And for years after he passed, you could hear him walking up and down the hallway. And as intriguing I found, sorry, I cannot even articulate the words that I'm trying to say. My mind is still mush and I'm dealing with sinuses, so bear with me. I always found it very, very intriguing as a child, but in a way it freaked me out at the same time. But I was like, yeah, I want to hear that too, right? So anyways, fast forward quite a few years. I took care of my father-in-law while he was battling kidney cancer. My husband was going through school at the same time, and so we kind of tag teamed taking care of him. The girls were very, very little at that time, but anyways, there was language barriers with the health system and everything else, so he needed somebody to be there for all of his appointments, and then he needed the support between the appointments, right? So anyways, for about good 2 years, I think, I was with him like almost every single day up until he passed. Now, right before he passed, he was kind of chair bound because he couldn't lay because his back would really, really hurt and he couldn't breathe. So we got him this lazy boy, and he would literally spend 24 hours in that lazy boy, kind of just reclined, I guess. And at one point, I was sitting next to him, like I was kneeling on the floor next to him. His legs were really, really very much swollen, and I was applying like cold compresses to his legs, and I kind of moved over, and he had his arms on the armrest, right? And I grabbed his hand to say something, like just, so I just like gently put my hand in his hand, and I was talking to him, and he kind of dozed off, and I was kneeling there right next to him, right? And which seemed like forever. It really was forever, because, you know, the first like little bit, like 15, 20 minutes, you're like, all right, that's fine. But then my legs started going numb and my back is hurting and everything else. And it's like, he's sleeping. Like, he's sleeping. And I go to pull my hand out of his hand, and he wakes up to that, and he just kind of lets go, but kind of just like taps on my hand and grabs it again and squeezes it, and that's the end of that, right? And I'm like, I didn't have the heart to pull my hand out. I did not have the heart to get up, because I knew it was like, literally, this was a couple days before he passed. And I knew time was coming, and I'm like, you know what? Suck it up, stupid. Like, shut up. You know, this man's dealing with so much, and oh, poor you, your legs are asleep, you know? So I stayed. And it's like every time I try to pull my hand out, he would wake up to it. Anyways, he'd like squeeze my hand, and then like he would graze his thumb over the back of my hand. Like, just like rub the back of my hand with his thumb. Literally, you guys, I sat there for hours. For hours, I could not escape. And part of me wanted to sit there because I didn't have the heart to get up. But a part of me's like, oh my God, my body is jello. You know? So anyways, and it's kind of odd and funny all at the same time that right now there is times and moments where I just feel this incredible, overwhelming love. And then I feel his thumb on the back of my hand. And I'm like, okay, there you are. Hi. How's it going? You know? And that still happens. He passed away in 2010. And it still happens quite often. And I know he's there. And that's his little way of telling me, hey, I'm here. I'm watching. I'm protecting you. But anyways, he ended up passing. And it was a whole family shit show as far as the funeral goes and everything else. And that's fine. It happens in a lot of families. I guess everybody's hurt and emotions are very high, and you don't know where to go from there. And excuse me, confirmation verb. But anyways, it was like the first funeral in the immediate family that we had in like a long time, right? So, well, first real one for me anyways. Like, I don't remember my great-grandparents, and I wasn't there for my grandfather when he passed, so it was like all very new, all very raw. And like I said, emotions were very high. But anyways, my husband was very upset and very angry all at the same time, and his dad was pretty much everything to him. So, you know, but in my living room, I had a clock that my husband got from his parents when he moved into the house, and I ended up moving into that house, right? But anyways, he had this clock on the wall and I hated it. And it's like every time I try to replace it, he's like, no, I got that from my parents. And, I don't want to hurt their feelings and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. But it's like, it was always at the top of my stairs, like at the wall across from the top of my stairs, I guess. So every time I went upstairs, because we have a semi-detached, right? So every time I went up those stairs and I look up and I see that stupid clock, and I'm like, ugh, I hate that clock, right? I didn't like it. Anyways, long story short, well, not really short. After the funeral, actually, I forgot about this. I just remember this. All right, so I totally forgot about this. This is a good one. Right before the funeral, like the day of the funeral, like the burial, the night before, we had the visitation, and like I said, a lot of emotions were very high and whatever. Girls were very young, so I had to get them all settled. They were sleeping at my parents' house, so that way I don't have to worry about any of that. We set our alarms. We have to be at the funeral home for like 7 o'clock in the morning because they had the family hour or 2 hours or whatever it was, right? So 7 o'clock in the morning, we're expected at the funeral home. Now, my nephew, my husband's brother's son, he lived in a town right next to us, about good half an hour away or so. He was very young too at this time. He did not drive. Like, and by very young, I mean like teenage years, right? Anyways, we were supposed to go and pick him up in the morning. So we're like, okay, we got to get up at like 5 and get ourselves situated, ready, and out the door and be there at the funeral home for 7. Now, my husband likes to get up before everybody, have his coffee, watch the news for the weather specifically. That was his daily routine anyways, right? My brother-in-laws, they lived out of town, like provinces away. They flew in before, like a week or two before he passed, so that way they could be here for his final moments. Anyways, one of my brother-in-laws slept on the couch. The other one wasn't staying with us, so my husband gets up in the morning, looks at the clock, and it's like 4 o'clock or something on his clock, right? Or on his alarm. And he's like, okay, perfect. Now, mind you, it's January, so it doesn't get light till like 7:30 in the morning. So it's all dark, okay? There's no sunlight that, whatever, that would tell you what time it is. This was before, the alarms on your cell phone. So anyways, he woke up before the alarm. He looks at the alarm clock. Okay, that's plugged in and has battery backup. If you know anything about plugged in alarm clocks, you know that they don't fail. But anyways, he looks at this alarm clock and it's like 4 something. He goes upstairs, goes in the kitchen, turns the kettle on for his coffee. Anyways, looks at the wall clock, it's 4 something. He didn't want to turn the TV on right away because he didn't want to wake my brother-in-law up with the TV because he wanted his coffee in peace, right? The clock on the wall in the dining room, the said clock that I was just talking about, also exact same time as everything else. So there's no, bells and whistles going off, going, yeah, no. Anyways, he has his coffee and he turns the TV on after that. And he looks and it's 6 something. And then he looks at the clocks and they're all saying 4 something at the same time. And we're like, when he started screaming, he's like, you guys gotta get up, like get the hell up. Like we gotta go away. Like sheer panic went through us. So we had to call my ex-sister-in-law and say, hey, we cannot come and pick the kid up. Can you drop him off? Whatever. We ended up getting there late, which looked bad on our part at that point. It is what it is. So whatever we were feeling beforehand, before the funeral, now it was like even worse because A, we looked bad, B, we were pissed off because what the hell just happened, right? So anyways, long story short, burial goes on. We had the luncheon, whatever, and a few of my cousins, my brother-in-laws, and my husband and I, we decided we're just going to meet back at our place before we go pick the kids up and whatever. So we get inside the house. Now, I believe it was my cousin and my brother-in-law that was there with us at that point. But my husband went up the stairs first. And he's looking at the clock and he's like, fucking clock. Excuse my F-bomb. But anyways, and as he cleared the way for me to go up, like I was right behind him, and I'm now that clock is like completely in my shot, like my eye shot. I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, it still says 4 something or other. And I'm like, fucking clock, I hated you always anyways. And as I said that, you guys, that clock fell and it broke into a billion little freaking pieces. It fell. It broke. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But it was like, holy shit. Like, all of us just stood there and we're like, what the fuck just happened? So anyways, so it wasn't just me going kind of stupid and delusional. It really literally happened. So fast forward, following winter, I believe, we have a fireplace in our basement and it's on a thermostat. It's not like forced there. We don't have a furnace, so we literally have it strategically placed at the bottom of the stairs in the basement, so that way all the air kind of pushes up and blah blah blah. Anyways, the thermostat goes stupid on it sometimes, and we have to replace the batteries in it into the receiver and the remote control, and it works itself out. Anyways, we wake up one night and it's like hotter than hell in our house. It's like over 100 degrees. It's like freaking hot. You cannot breathe. And my husband goes downstairs, grabs batteries, and he's changing out batteries, changes them out. It's still freaking doing that. He unplugs the thing, plugs it back in, nothing. It's still, the fire is roaring, the fan on it is just going mental, right? And now, anybody that knew my father-in-law, they knew that he liked to play pranks on people. And he was funny in that way, kind of annoying at the same time. I would always tell him that. He was like, are you serious? Like, grow up. And I would say that often to him. I loved him very much. I really very much respected this man. Like, seriously, I still till this day have so much love and respect for this man. It's unreal. But anyways, so my husband unplugs the receiver out of the wall. Like, the fireplace is a gas fireplace, natural gas fireplace, but the receiver works on electricity. And he unplugs this, okay? So there is, like, right away, the fireplace should be shutting off at this point, and it usually does. But the stupid thing is still roaring. And he just, at once, stops, like, dead in his tracks, raises his arms, looks up, and goes, okay, it's not fucking funny anymore, Dad. Can you stop? And as he said this, the fire goes out. Yeah, so that's another one of my favorite stories of his. But anyhow, honestly, I feel his presence. I feel him all the freaking time. Now this, I think, is going to be like a 2-part video, so I'm going to release the other one another time because I have so many stories, not of my father-in-law per se, but my grandparents as well. My mom's father, he died a couple years after we came to Canada. He was deaf for a majority of his life. He lost his hearing when he was little. So he didn't know sign language. He read lips. And it really blows my mind because he was bilingual and he would just catch everything, right? And it's crazy to me because it's like I look at people and I can't hear them, and it's like, why don't you have captioning underneath your face? But anyways, legend is that he got his hearing back the day that he passed. And I remember there was a phone call. I was young, so, and I want to say I was in school, but legend is that they called from the hospital and he wanted to hear us. And I think he talked to my mom and he passed right after that. I don't know if I remember the story correctly 100%. So, but now I would see that my mom's parents lived in a completely different town, and we would only see them a few times a year, really. So I wasn't so close to them. I loved going there. I loved going to their house and spending time there. But I was more close with my dad's parents than my mom's, because we lived in the same house, right? But anyways, there was a time, a very, very dark period of my life where I was contemplating on going on with life or not. And it's kind of funny because, well, not funny, haha, funny. It happened a couple times. The first time, it wasn't as serious as the second time, but the first time I had this whole plan worked out in my head on what I need to do. And I went to sleep that night, and that was the first time I dreamt of my grandfather. And in my dream, we sat on a bench and we talked out my problems. And I woke up, my problems were still there, but my perspective was shifted and it was completely different. So I thankfully did not go through with the preparations and everything else as I had planned on. Then fast forward quite a few years. It was a very, very dark period. It just seemed like everything was not going right and things were falling apart, and I did not know which way to turn. And I literally started going through with the plan. I had the plan and I started going through with it. And I smoke. It's my nasty habit. I won't say I don't have a lot of nasty habits. I do have nasty habits, but for the most part, it's the worst that I do. So how's that? But anyways, I was standing at my back door and like on my deck, and I looked up at the sky, and in the clouds there was a face, a head, and it was my grandfather, the same said grandfather, my mom's dad. And I stood there, and as I'm watching it, the eyes in the clouds are watching me. To say I ugly cried would be the least. I really seriously ugly cried. and I cried and I cried and I let it all out. And I'm like, yeah, okay, not today. Like, luckily I didn't do anything that I couldn't go back on. But I I had quite a bit of alcohol at that point, because it would have made things easier for me to go ahead. And anybody that knows me knows that I don't really drink. I don't drink. I used to have a social drink here and there, but it's been quite some time since I even did that, so I really don't drink. Um, I like to be in full control of myself. I've seen enough of how people act when they are under the influence that I look at that and I'm like, oh my God, I do not want to be perceived that way. So I like to stay in control, and that is my big thing. So if I let loose, it's usually just with my husband, and that's pretty much it. That is it. Like, he's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with me, and I always felt safe in his company, so I never judged. So that is the only person on this earth that will ever see me lose control. So anyways, I stood there and I looked at that cloud, and I actually took a picture of it. I still have that picture. And it's funny because that picture, whenever I'm going through anything bad, I've luckily, thank God, have not had a moment like that or a thought like that since. But whenever I'm going through something bad, I revert back to my picture and I go, you know what? You handled that. You got out of that. You're alive. You survived. This isn't as bad. You got this. So that is not so much of a encounter, but so to say, it is because he was with me, right? And I know that my spirits and my ancestors and everybody else, like, I'm very much into my A team. So there's that. Hang on, let me revert back to my notes. I don't really have the time to elaborate and go into my other ones because I got to go back into work. But this has been fun. Please, please, please drop your stories in the comments. I love hearing these. Like, I honest to God love hearing these. And actually, you know what? I will have my email in the description. If there is like a story, like a good, like fantastic ass story you want me to share, email me your story and I will do an episode. Like, please, that would be awesome, because I seriously love these stories. Honestly, I've never had an encounter, like a visual, physical encounter. Thank God, because I think I would have, I don't know, had a heart attack and pooped myself all at the same time. I have no clue, but like every single time it's like I hear like, the bump in the night, and you're like, yeah, that's out of the ordinary. Or I feel a presence like so much. I like close my eyes and I'm like, please, please don't appear, because I am not ready. I am not ready to see you. So like, I love you very much. And if you want to talk to me and appear in front of me, please appear in my dreams and help me remember my dream. So that way I know what your point is at that very moment. Please do not appear in front of me, because I will have a heart attack. I will die and we will be together in spirit realms. Like, excuse me. But like, honestly, I don't think my heart can handle seeing a ghost. I don't think I'm ready for that yet, and I don't think I ever will be. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, so anyways, you guys, please, 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 if you have like some fantastic ass like story, either drop it in the comments or email it to me and I will do a video. Like, if you like, honestly, like, I would really, really love that. I love those stories. So, and I love hearing them. I love telling them. And Like, obviously mine are kind of lame as far as some of the people stories that I've heard before. Like, that's freaking insane. It blows my mind. But I'm going to tap out. I'm going to go in and do my 8 hours of slave work. Continuous loop, never ending. All right. I love you guys. I hope you're having a good day. I will be talking to you next time. Bye-bye for now.